Jesus said, "Man cannot live on bread alone, but from every word that proceeds from the mouth of God." You're listening to Daily Truth.
Brothers and sisters, listen. The sons of Issachar knew the times. It is not enough only to know principles. You also need to be a Christian with discernment who can say what time it is. What time is it? A lot of the rhetoric, the social justice rhetoric, you know my problem with it? It's not that social justice doesn't matter. My problem with it is that it's 50 years too late. A lot of the rhetoric that you hear, if that was coming out in 1940, it would have been good. The problem is it's coming out after that's not an issue. So we're saying, oh, there's this oppression and blah, 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 blah. But then Asians have to score higher on their SAT to get into college. Second, whites. And then down the list. There is literally affirmative action, which is racism. There is discrimination in different weights and measures. The Lord, another thing he hates, false witness. He also hates unequal balances, unequal weights and measures. There are different weights and measures for determining certain tax brackets, for determining what school you can get into, what benefits you can get. And some of these things, it's not just cultural impulses, but it's actually legislative law. At a judicial, legislative level, there are unequal weights and balances. And the Lord abhors these things according to his word. We need to be like the sons of Issachar. We need to know what time it is. Now, that being said, because I don't want you to say, amen, I'm going to do that. I'm going to walk out of church today and live a more courageous life. And then you get punched in the face. And you're like, well, my pastor led me astray. I had no idea. Because you will get punched in the face, metaphorically or literally. This is one other thing. The sons of Issachar knew the time. But what that means, when you say something when it's actually relevant, right? So you're not talking about social justice 50 years too late, but you're actually talking about it when it's relevant. You know what that's called? It's called being a prophet. And you know what happens to the prophets? They get killed. Now, later generations build tombs to honor them. Right? Everybody says, I love Charles Spurgeon. That's because he's safely buried under 6 feet of dirt. If he was still alive, you'd hate him. I promise you. You know how I know you'd hate him? Because you hate John MacArthur. And John MacArthur is tame in comparison to Charles Spurgeon. Charles Spurgeon was calling people out on the front row in his church saying, you, sir, the gloves that you have belong to your employer and you stole them. And he's calling them out by name and pointing at them in front of 1,000 people. Charles Spurgeon was way more intense. So knowing the times, like the sons of Issachar, means that you're actually crying out against injustice when it's actually taking place. Everybody, as a good rule of thumb, when Amazon is putting Black Lives Matter on their screensaver and on all their packages, then you know there's actually no need to say it any longer because everyone already agrees. If a corporation is doing it, then what you're saying is this is a battle that's actually already won. But when it's a time where there's an actual injustice taking place, not 50 years ago, but today, and you know that if you were to speak out, that instead of being hoisted up on shoulder top and given a parade in your honor, you would actually be penalized, then that's how you know that's the thing, that's the target that you should be hovering over. And you should do it with strategy and shrewdness and wisdom. Don't be suicidal, but also don't be a coward. But know that if you know the times and you talk about not just giants, see, I've used this illustration in the past. It's like talking about sins and certain things, culturally wide sins and injustices that have already kind of come and gone and been dealt with, right? The Overton window is already shifted, right? The parade is already happening. What that's like is like, it's like somebody who risked their life and killed a giant that was terrorizing the people of God. And then what you do is, after the giant, that just moments ago you were shaking and quivering out of fear, now that he's good and dead and laying on the ground with his head severed, you run up to the giant and you start kicking him in the side. I'm a warrior. No, you're not. And there's another giant right over here that's literally taking the church, the people of God, and decimating them. And you're like, I won't stand for giants, that you're kicking the dead corpse. And there's a giant at large that's actually alive that's currently destroying the people of God. And nothing to see here. That's Mark Dever. I'm going to name. It's John Piper. That's Russell Moore. That's Beth Moore. It's David French, Francis Collins, Tim Keller. They kick dead giants and pretend not to see living giants that are currently destroying the people of God. They're bad shepherds. They're bad shepherds.